What's going on, everybody? I just finished moving some footage over from where I did the first Pinhoti Project reworked episode. Um, it was kind of rough, kind of what I expected for the first one, so they'll get better, hopefully. But one thing I did want to say that I didn't say in that whole spiel, the 20-minute spiel I just took reworking that day one hunt in South Florida was um, just because we're doing instructional videos, and I'll probably have some guest appearance. Maybe we'll get Chubbs and Squirrel, and maybe Courtney will stop by or something. So you get to see some different faces. But by doing these things, I don't want it to come across as we think we're professionals at this. I don't think professionals exist in this. As soon as you think you know what you're doing, they're going to make a fool out of you. You'll get to see that many times over the next 70 or 80 days that we walk through the Pinhoti Project. But I just wanted to get that out there. I hate, like, a lot of times your instructional videos come across as this guy thinks he knows everything. Just let me get that out there that I don't know anything. Very little do I know about turkeys and turkey behavior and all this stuff. I try to be a student when I'm out there. I try to, you know, uh, kind of dissect what they do, why they do it, and they always prove me wrong. So I want to say that first and foremost. And I do this at the end of this episode so you can fast forward through that once you get there. But I also wanted to just go ahead and say thanks to all of you guys that have commented and liked and shared and all the messages and stuff through all the social media platforms. It's been pretty incredible. Thank you guys. Just a little something that we kind of threw together right here in like January or February, and then you guys seem to like it. I knew there should be a calling for something like this, something that a way of hunting that was kind of becoming lost. I felt like, and it hurt so bad to see the way I like to hunt being diluted to a point to where it's almost unable to be recognized. That's the why I wanted to try to see if we could resurface this thing. We could pull it back to the top. I knew there was a lot of people that hunted out there this way, um, and it's just going to show like there's people that are like, that's the way I hunt. That's what I like to watch hunting. They don't mind the rough footage, and it's going to get rougher. I promise. Unfortunately, but just thanks for the motivation. It takes a little motivation because crashing through all this footage, being a one man editing band is pretty tough. But it is what it is. What it is. So thanks for that, and we'll get right back into what I was fixing to do anyways, which is edit this and get it out there for you. So here it comes. So welcome to the first episode, maybe, of the Pinhoti Project reworked. I guess that's what we're going to call it. Idea here is I didn't want to clog up the videos that we're releasing every few days now with instructional type stuff, but I knew there was a demand for that kind of thing. I'm having a lot of questions and a lot of messages, and people want some instruction on how we do things or why we do things. Thought the easiest way to do that was to do a separate video. I'm gonna try to make them quick so that they're not, bogged down with a lot of stuff. Just kind of chop through and get straight to the point. What I'm gonna do here is, which is gonna come across as extremely basic and elementary. I've got this camera on me, obviously. I've got this small camera right here on the screen, and it's already playing. So that way I can point to what I'm talking about on the camera. Yes, I could take this, put the actual footage in the editing software, and put me a little pointer on the screen and show you. It's just going to take a lot longer, and I don't have a lot of editing time to put into this type stuff at the moment because I'm still editing like every day. I just got finished working on like day 6, so trying to stay ahead of you guys. So anyways, this is what we're going to do for now. We're going to see how it turns out. If you don't like it, let me know. We can try something different, but I think we can pull it off. So essentially what I'm going to do here is going to walk back through day 1 of the Pinhoti Project, where Courtney and I were down in South Florida, and she took a beautiful gobbler, and just kind of chop through it real quick, watch little segments of it, point out some things that people may have questions about, or some things that I just think be worth mentioning. And we'll start from the top. So yeah, like I said, we're going to call this Pinhoti Project Day Worked Day 1. Reworked Day 1. I can't remember if that's what I said, but anyway. Essentially, starting from the top, we're going down to an area in South Florida that I've went to many times. As far as how I picked this spot, no real way of telling you how I picked it. It's just experience. I've been going down there for many years, and the way I figured this spot out was just by many years of going, exploring, and this is just a spot. That's all I can tell you about that. When you're scouting South Florida, it can be really tough because you don't have, topo lines or anything like that. You got to really be able to understand satellite imagery. The only advice I would give you is when you do go to South Florida, when you do go down there, when you're standing somewhere, look and see what it looks like on your satellite imagery, and remember that. Like, okay, this was a nice open cypress head. This is what it looks like on satellite. Okay, this was a wet bog. This is what it looked like on satellite. This was a palmetto chop. Remember what that looks like on satellite. So that way, when you're looking at strange terrain, you can remember what it was in the areas, that you've already explored. So that may kind of expedite that process of figuring out where you want to go and where you don't. We'll get right into the video. We drove down through there, 10 or 11 hours. I can't remember exactly how long it took. But Courtney got a couple hours sleep. I did close my eyes, I think, once, but not important anyways. We got down through there with very little sleep. We'll start from here.
We heading to Florida.
You guys have watched this, I'm assuming.
So happy I got to sit on my
If you haven't watched this yet, you're probably going to want to watch the video first.
We gotta run.
Let's skip forward here till we get to the hunt. It's daylight. We're slipping in here, and you hear me mention one thing to her. In South Florida, these pine trees in this particular area, the turkey seem to use pines quite a bit, and as you can see, they skylight really easily. And you'll see that in a later day. The one that I'm editing right now is you can skylight those jokers on the limbs sometimes if you keep your eyes peeled. So that's what I was telling her there, to make sure that we were slowing down and doing that. Here, we're just essentially, there was a big cypress head that I knew about. Turkeys had been around in the past, and I wanted to make sure we were in earshot of that. One thing you might hear us mention, I can't remember, is in the dark. It was full moon, and we could look and see strut sign and tracks all in the sandy roads. Those roads, they wash easily with rain. So if you know when the last rain was, you can really get a timeline on the sign. You can get a timeline. If it rained 3 days ago, all of this happened within the last 3 days. If it hadn't had rain in a week, the sign could look just like a smorgasbord of sign, but that could have been built up from 3 or 4 weeks. And the thing about sand, it holds it pretty well. Like it'll hold sign for a good amount of time. So you could be looking at stuff that's 3 weeks old. But in this case, hadn't had rain really recently, but we saw some strut sign that was really fresh. We could tell. So anyways, we decided to blow past that and go deeper because I wanted to get to this spot that I'd had success in before. We'll fast forward on through here. And there I'm talking about why I chose. There was 2 like buggy paths there to choose from. I chose one that I here again from experience, the sides are a little thicker. These turkeys really like to use roads in Florida because everything's so thick. They'll use those roads a lot. So this particular road had a lot more cover along the edges of it, so that when we're walking down the center of the road, we're not exposing ourselves to as much. It's the reason I chose that road. You can still hear just as well, but you're not, out standing on an island, so to speak. Let's see. We go down through there. We do hear a turkey. We're walking, and I hear what I think is a gobble. You know how it is. you just hear something in the distance, and the tone, the cadence, or whatever, just like, ooh, that was a turkey gobble. So you stop, can't tell where it is, you just know it's a long way off. Then it did it again, and I was able to confirm that it was a turkey gobble, but here again, it was an extremely long way off. What we did next was, since we didn't know how far exactly and just kind of a general direction, is we're very careful. Instead of just bombarding down through there, the last thing we want to do is bump the turkey. So before I bump the turkey, I'm just going to give him time for his morning to progress, to get to get later in the morning, because he may only have gobbled 2 times when he flew down, but an hour later he may gobble a time or two. All I need him to do is gobble a couple more times so I can get it nailed down exactly where he's at. Then I can start making a more aggressive move on his location, but I don't want to be too aggressive before I know exactly where he's at. So that's why we're kind of taking a little bit of a reserved approach when we're going down this road. I haven't made a call yet because I really hate giving away my location until I feel like I absolutely have to. And you can tell in here I'm saying something like we're going to call in 100 yards, and you can tell I'm kind of reserved. I don't want to call unless I absolutely have to strike him. Yeah, I'm talking about calling. I want to call because I'm kind of feeling like it may be our only option to get him to gobble. But luckily, we get down here and we get these obnoxious crows to get him to gobble one more time so we can nail down exactly where he's at. And I know you can't hear him, but obviously he gobbled. I heard him loud and clear that time. You can tell by my a little bit more authoritative.
Just gobbled again.
Here, I'm telling you.
I
I know exactly where he's at now. Here again, experience. I know that this road ends kind of tees into another, like it's just a shallow, which you see it later in the video, a shallow canal, kind of a spillover canal. And that's an area that kind of stays a little lower. And I know there's also another buggy path that goes down through there. So I knew he was right there in that area at that point. So I knew I could be pretty aggressive in approaching him without risking being seen. So now we're covering some ground pretty well. And when we get to that tee, that's when I really slow down and we more or less just sneak around the point. You can hear me talking about getting to the end of the road. And this is where what we're doing here is really gonna point out some things that I think go overlooked, I guess. First off, we sneak around here because he could very well be in any of this, and I use my binoculars here again. I know you can't tell through video because I'm trying to turkey hunt, turkey kill, and video at the same time, so it's kind of a little bit difficult. I called to him the first time, then he gobbled, and I knew we were sitting pretty doggone good because I just clucked to him a couple times, and he obviously heard it and gobbled, and was very responsive. So I felt really good at this point. This is the first thing I wanted to point out to you, that I feel like stuff like this goes unnoticed. Everybody thinks that we just heard the turkey and bailed down beside the first bush and then started calling to the turkey. But what you need to realize is, like you can see by the way the sun's coming in through here, that the sun had already made it up over the trees and it was just blitzing us from this angle. So what we basically did is got in the shade of this palmetto right here. So we snuck up under the shade. Was it the most comfortable spot? Absolutely not. But we could have got on the front of that palmetto and leaned against it, but you were more or less just being, spotlighted with the sun. So we stayed kind of tucked back in the shade of that palmetto and used the cover of it to keep the glare of the sun off of us the best we could. Had plenty of cover because the ground cover's so thick in South Florida, a lot of tall grass. That's always a concern, a turkey coming in, you're not getting a clear shot, but that's just kind of it comes with the territory there. That's what we were discussing, is where we believe the turkey's going to come up. But essentially, as far as you can hear, the way I work the turkey, as far as calling to it, I started out just clucking, and he was responsive. You hear a hen pop up in there, and I get a little bit more aggressive. But she didn't really crawl on me. That's why the calling didn't get super, super aggressive. If she would have climbed up and started really cutting hard, I would have done the same thing. It would have been more of a bickering match at that point. But what you will notice is each time that he gobbles, I try to, or at least a majority of the time he gobbles, I try to call back to him, and that's something that I do quite a bit. Is as soon as he gobbles, I like to respond to him. I feel like a lot of turkeys, there's almost a reflex. Is if they hear something that excites them, they it's almost like a knee jerk reaction. They'll a hen will cut at it just like a gobbler will gobble at a hen. Um, so essentially, that's what I was doing. And like there, you can hear him gobble, and I'm trying to. It's exactly what we're doing there. He's gobbling, and I'm jumping right back at him, cutting, trying to show the excitement level of this hen that's in the bushes here. Um, I'm not paying a lot of attention to the other hen that I know he's got with him at this point because he's being so responsive. If he had have gobbled and then give me a courtesy gobble or something, and then not responded to the rest of my calling, I would have probably been much more reserved because I'd have been calling more to the hen. And since she wasn't very responsive, then I would have almost assumed that it was is a hen that didn't want confrontation. So I would have approached it much more tentatively. I would have called to her, um, sparingly. And honestly, at this point, I would have probably been crawling out there into that buggy path to see if I could put my eyes on them to see exactly what she was doing. That's almost as a last ditch, you know, um, deal there to do something like that. But that's kind of all you're left with when you're dealing with a gobbler that could potentially be following a hen that's walking away. So you're anyways, but luckily for us, he was very responsive, and literally crawled on every call we gave him. So we just kept feeding him little by little, and he started gaining on us pretty quick, and that's kind of what's been going on while I've been sitting here jabbering. And then here I've got noted that the drumming begins. Um, as he approaches, I call to him, and then he responds. He begins responding to the call with drumming rather than gobbling. Um, he knows when he gets in close that he doesn't have to gobble. He drums to attract the hen. It's the same exact. It works the same exact way. They gobble to attract hens. When they get in close quarters, they drum to attract hens. So once he gets into tight quarters, he starts drumming really loud. And this turkey just drums like you wouldn't believe. As good as you can hear it in the camera, in person, it was tenfold more intense. And you can hear him on these rocky, like sandy roads. His wings were just, you can just hear him dragging in the ground. And we were watching for him because we knew it was going to more or less be, looking for his head coming through that tall grass, and that's exactly what we were looking for. And he gobbled there really close, and I'll tell you what happened. He essentially got there and he hung up for. He came really quick, and then he got to this spot, and then I noticed his drumming was loud, but it wasn't coming any closer. Something that you know gobblers are going to hit their mark most of the time, and especially when they've got to get in super tight before you can kill them. Like in this situation, the turkey had to get 20 yards, 18 yards, whatever he was, before we could even lay our eyes on him. So essentially, what he did was he got to probably maybe 40 yards and it hit his mark, and he was sitting there strutting. Now I don't know if he was breeding the hen or if how turkeys will get on the ground and do their little shaky dance thing, and that's what I heard his wings doing on the ground, and it was just more or less a drum beating sound with his wings vibrating and him jerking back and forth on the ground. And I knew, I mean, that's like the pinnacle of excitement for a turkey. I mean, if a gobbler's doing that, then he's excited to the point of no return. Um, so I knew when I heard him doing that he was at the peak. So as soon as he got finished doing that, I let his wings settle down, and as soon as he I'd already made up my mind. I got my call ready. As soon as he gobbled again or drummed again, I was going to respond to him. And when he gobbled at me, which I almost was certain that he was going to do, I was essentially just going to crawl all over him. I think I'm just crawling right on top of his gobbles. Even gets the hen a little upset back there. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Is he's right there at probably 40, 45 yards maybe at the most. He's at the pinnacle of excitement, and he's hung up. I guess is the word to use there. Even though he's in shotgun range, dang near, you just can't shoot him. And essentially, all I'm doing is breaking him, just causing him to just have to come look. Because if he's out there doing, doing the things that he was doing, gobbling and drumming and shaking on the ground and doing all that type of stuff, then he's convinced. There is not a doubt in my mind. That tells me that he is 100% convinced that there's another turkey right there. He's not the least bit nervous, wary. This turkey has thrown all caution to the wind. He's completely convinced there's another turkey right there. Now he's here coming into view, and I'll pause it for a second. But if a turkey, just another situation, if I was sitting there and this turkey had gobbled that close, but he wasn't drumming, I didn't hear him drumming. He hadn't come to me as quickly as this turkey had. He hadn't been as responsive as this turkey had. Then I might not crawl on top of him like that, because if a turkey's standing there on full alert, and not quite as convinced that this is another turkey, if it's still there's a just a pinch of doubt in his mind that there's danger lurking around that corner, then cutting on top of him and getting that aggressive with him that close is probably going to work against you. I wish there was some kind of scale I could tell you. It's just flat out experience, and you're probably going to get tired of me saying that if I continue doing these type of little spills here, because experience there's no substitute for it. There's no way to teach you experience. That's just going to kind of be one of those things that you have to gauge on your own there. But anyway, that's what happened. I crawled on top of him, jumped on top of his gobbles, and it broke him. I mean, essentially, the minute all of that settled down, I heard his drumming just get louder, and it was essentially, get the gun off safety and get ready, and here we go. And here we're discussing bring his head up, because trying to get his head up away from his feathers to get a good clean shot without tearing him up, and here it goes. And that's that. And you can see there exactly what I was talking about. I dropped my pen. There's that old buggy path that I was talking about that I knew was there. And there's that old shallow, like an overflow canal there. I'm convinced those turkeys were roosted in these pines. One of these pines right here on the edge of it or something. There's a lot more back here toward the back. But I'm assuming that he was there probably all morning. I'm thinking he gobbled one time on the limb, and soon thereafter gobbled again, probably at that hen flying down, because he only gobbled 2 times, because I'm fairly certain we were within earshot of that turkey all morning. And then once he got on the ground, the thing about South Florida, as you can tell, it's super dense. Everything at ground level is super dense, so those gobbles can be really, really muffled. And once he got on the ground, he probably gobbled another 3 or 4 times, just following his hen, probably shot gobbling at something. And that's what I kept hearing as we were walking, as we were, moving, and just couldn't pin it down to exactly where it was. but they were probably in that shallow, that low, vegetation there. That's a little bit lower, and that road there was obviously a little lower, and they were using it quite a bit. That canal there, when we got done, with all this, we looked at it, it was just covered up in turkey sign and droppings and scratching and whatever was tore up pretty good. So I'm sure that's what they were doing. But anyways, that's kind of how that all played out. Courtney's pretty excited here. She's pretty excited there. That's fun to watch. Anybody that gets that excited, and fortunately, I still do. Uh, her and I both still do. I think we all in this little group still get this excited. That's why we're still after it for as long as we've done it. Not that I've done it an extremely long time. I know there's guys out there that have done it much longer than me, but anyways, I think that's all that there is to talk about as far as kind of breaking this hunt down. Um, there's not a lot to this one, I don't guess. Maybe I'm sure some more later episodes will be a little bit more involved as far as strategy and what we did and why we called and why we moved and etc. Um, but that's probably going to be it for this one. Um, you guys tell me if you think this works out. I know this one was probably going to be really really quick, and well, I say that it's like 22 minutes long, so maybe not so quick. But anyways, Pinhoti Project reworked. We're just reworking these episodes here and showing you why we did what we did. Not a lot to tell you on this. I don't think. You tell me. Hopefully, it was more helpful than I'm racking my brain right now trying to think of what I said that might be helpful. But anyways, thank you guys for watching and all the positive feedback we've got off the first two videos. Gonna try to put this one out maybe this tonight, I think, and maybe what is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Wednesday. I think I may put out another one tomorrow. I've got a few already finished up. So, anyways, like I said, thanks for the positive feedback. We got tons of messages, all the comments on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. That's friggin' awesome. I mean, I can't tell you because there's long hours in front of this laptop right now, editing this stuff out and cleaning this footage up. And Florida is definitely are some of what I feel like that's our best footage of the whole season. Everybody gets tired and the season gets long and everything as it goes on. So I'm hoping it stays as entertaining for you guys as hopefully it's been so far. Questions as far as what you want to hear on these type episodes, let me know if there's anything in particular about these hunts that you want to ask questions about. And this thing just quit. These vlog cameras have been the death of me all season. Just takes a notion, just quits video, and that's just not cool. But anyway, yeah, just thanks for like I said, all the motivation, all the positive feedback. It's been really cool. Everybody listening to watching us and listening to all the positive feedback about the way we do things. We do hunt a little bit old school, something that I feel like was being a little diluted. So we thought that there may be a need to bring this back to the surface. It's just the way we hunted by chance. I don't dislike anybody that hunts any other way. I don't want it to come across as that. This is just the way I like to do it. And I felt like there was a lot of people that did it like this, but nobody videoed it because I know that there's an extremely difficult. It's a difficult endeavor, and we tried. So hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think, and I've probably said the same thing 4 or 5 times in this whole little episode, so ignore that. I'll probably get better if we do more of these things. So thanks for tuning in.